Hello all, I'm Sai, and if you're new to this channel, I talk about books, personal development and spirituality here. And if you're someone who's already been following me, thank you so much for staying and putting up with me for the past 30 to 40 days during which I could not publish any videos. It is because I had a leg injury and I have injured my ankle. It is still healing, but I'm able to do my routine work a bit more efficiently right now. So I just wanted to start making videos so that it feels a bit more normal for me. And I'm sure at least a few people will ask me, yeah, I have gotten a haircut after 2 years. I used to have this long hair and now it has come down to this short because I was not able to manage it along with the injury. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about all the books which I read in July, which is the month during which I was injured. Exactly halfway through the month, I had an accident and it kind of worked for me in terms of reading because I managed reading a total of 24 books in July, which I think is my personal best in the past couple of years or so. And that also is because I wanted to distract myself from the pain and the discomfort that I was experiencing. Many of these are short books, so without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. And I'm sorry that I was not able to publish videos for the past few days, and this wrap up is also so late into the month. But starting from this video, you can expect regular videos just like usual here on the channel. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. I'll start with the physical books as usual, and I managed reading a total of 9 physical books in July, of which the first one is The 7 Moons of Maali Almeida by Shehan Karunatilaka. This is also the Booker Prize winner for 2022. That's the reason why I picked up this book. And it's also quite interesting as a story because here we see the story with our main character being a ghost and making his way through the ghost world as well as our real world simultaneously. And this happens during the Sri Lankan Civil War in the 1980s and 90s. Our main character here is Maali and he's a photographic journalist. He's really good at his job and because of this he's also super popular inside his circles. Due to certain reasons in the beginning of the book itself he's dead and he does not know the reason behind his death and who ended up killing him. It's very clear for us in the first chapter itself that the main character here has been murdered and not just died of natural causes. Who ended up killing him, what are the reasons behind it, and so many other things are explored here. While doing all these things, Maali also has this incredible duty by which he has to go forward into the dreams of one of his loved ones and tell them about the secret stash of photographs that he has hidden somewhere that will eventually change the entire political landscape of Sri Lanka. And to do all this, he has gotten only 7 moons time. The book is written in second person POV, so it is a bit tricky to read here and then. This is the first book that I've read in that way. So because of that, I was a bit confused here and there. But as a whole, the storytelling here is just excellent. And it is an adult book, so if you're a young adult, please don't read it. But if you're an adult and want to challenge yourself in terms of reading, you should definitely give this a try because it's not just a fresh concept and a really well written story, but it also talks about so many things going on in our current world itself, despite the story being situated in the 90s. It was a little bit frustrating at times for me while reading this book because it felt like a fever dream here and there. But as a whole, the story was really nice and the writing was just phenomenal. So I ended up rating this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read the third book inside the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, and it is Life, the Universe and Everything by Douglas Adams. This is a bind-up of the first 4 books inside the series, so I read the third book from this one. The only reason why I'm reading this series is because I just like its brand of humor so much because it is very nonsensical, at the same time it is super intellectual. Some of the things that the author talks about and tries to explore here just goes above my head because I'm not that smart. At the same time, some of the adventures that we come across inside the series are just insanely crazy. If you're someone who likes sci-fi and can also handle stories which are very convoluted, then you can definitely go forward and try reading the series. All the books inside the series are very short, around 200-300 pages in length. Despite that, I've not finished reading the 4th book inside this bind-up because it takes a lot of brain power for me to read these books. The 3rd book, I should say, was not that engaging as the first 2 books personally for me. Even though I enjoyed the humor, there was not much going on with the plot. At the same time, there was not that much character development happening also. I'm a heavily character-driven reader, so I want at least one character that I must like in order to like the book as a whole, or like the story as a whole. This lacked that aspect for me, so I rated it 3 stars. The next one is also part of a series, and it is the 3rd book inside the Throne of Glass series, which is Heir of Fire by J Maas. I have talked about how much I enjoyed the 2nd book inside the series, which is Crown of Midnight. And this one was kind of a little bit down compared to that book because there is so much happening inside this book, which is kind of a setup for the rest of the series. I was able to see that really clearly because the author was building the world like nothing else before inside this book, and we were able to see different continents or different parts of this world, different cultures of this world separately happening, and everything that is happening as plot lines in this one are not sequential. They are all parallelly happening in different parts of this world, and it is nice to see that when one character is going through such kind of changes in one part of the world, other characters who are either related to them or are friends of them are experiencing totally different things on another part of the continent or the world, which all felt really nice to me. Because of so much world building and setup, this was quite dry if you ask me. It was not as much action packed as the first two books. And with this book, I'm halfway through the series because I've read the first 4 books. That is the first 3 books as well as the novella collection. And I have like the second half of the series yet to read. I started reading the 4th book, which is Queen of Shadows. I'm just like a few pages in, so I don't have much to talk about that. But this one was a really good installment for the series, providing a wider view of the world and what are all the plot points that we are going to tackle starting from this book. So I rated this one 4 stars. The next 2 books are children's classics, and the fact that they are classics itself is very astonishing to me because I'm not at all a classics reader, okay? I just find the language of those books very disengaging for me. It's not that they're very difficult to understand and read for me, but the way in which everything is ultra formal just makes me disconnected with the story so much, and it does not feel authentic also, even though it is authentic for that time period. There are also so many politically inappropriate things in all the classics, no matter what. That also turns me off a little bit. But despite those things, I think these are the first 2 books which I finished reading after I got injured. And of these, the first one is Heidi by Johanna Spyri. Just look at this edition, it's beautiful. I have an entire box set of 5 books, and I have Pride and Prejudice alone from that box set, which I have not read yet. And in this book, we follow Heidi, who's basically orphaned in the beginning of the book itself, and she's taken care of by this very old man. After that, she's sent to this house and gets back to the old man again, and we just see Heidi growing up from a very young baby to quite a young woman, and it is really nice to read. Okay, it's also super wide, so you have to keep that in mind if you're going to read this book. Apart from that, I did not feel anything special about this book, but this will be perfect to read during the winter time when it's nice and cold out there, because it happens in Europe, and the place in which the story takes place is also shown to be really cool and cold for most part of the year. So you can try reading this during that time of the year, and I should say that I did have a really good time, and I rated this one also 4 stars. The next one is probably my most favorite of all the books that I read in July, and this one also came out to be a very huge surprise for me, because there have been very few instances throughout this year where a book has just come out of nowhere and become my favorite, and this is one such book for me, because every time I think back to the time that I read it, I just have much more happy, comfortable and loving memories towards the story, and it is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montegomery. I've seen Sushmita from Read with Sushmita talk about this author a lot, and only after reading this book I'm able to understand why she likes these stories, because it was really beautiful. Okay, here also Anne is an orphan girl, and she is accidentally adopted by her adopted parents, and we just get to see her life from growing up from a really little girl to a very young woman, and also like just an adult throughout this book, and it was really wholesome. Okay, in the beginning of the book, trust me, the way in which Anne was continuously talking about imagining things and imagining things to be good felt quite annoying for me, but after a few pages I was able to understand that she's a person who's shown to be an orphan at a very young age, and she has built up a lot of things in her head itself just in order to comfort herself. The way in which the author fleshed out her character and made her act in certain ways with different people was really beautiful. And if I'm not wrong, this is also the first one in a series of 8 books. I'm not sure whether I'll be continuing on with the series or not, but I'll definitely reread this sometime in the future because I just fell in love with this story. Easily one of my favorite reads from 2024, and I ended up rating this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next one is the only non-fiction physical book which I read in July, and it is also my book club pick for July. Unfortunately, it is the book which disappointed me the most in July also, and it is Mindset by Dr. Carol S. Dweck. Now in this book, the author basically talks about a growth mindset and fixed mindset, and I should say that I had really high expectations for this book because I've heard nothing but really great things about this book from everyone whom I follow on BookTube that talks about non-fiction books, and that was a huge letdown for me here because despite the author talking about the importance of mindset and how it can change a person's life, I did not find any chapter in which there was any exercise that a person can do or things that we can do in order to make our mindset better or stronger, for lack of a better word. It just felt like a collection of incidents or examples from different famous people's lives who have achieved stuff and just pairing it along with the growth mindset or the flourishing mindset kind of deal throughout the book. It had really few exercises or no exercises if you ask me. I have highlighted a lot of stuff inside the book, but I also think that I could have gotten that from any other book also out there on the internet. So yeah, this was quite disappointing for me, and maybe I read it with the wrong mindset, but I don't think so, because I was enjoying every other thing which I read. So it's probably not a book for me, and I ended up rating this one 3 stars. The last 3 physical books are actually part of a Tamil series, and it is Parthiban Kanavu by Amarar Kalki. This is a bind-up of all the 3 books, which are all short in length. Now, this is a historical fiction book based on the story of the Pallavas and Cholas who ruled Tamil Nadu, which is in the south of India, nearly 1,000 years back. And I should say that this series was not even remotely as good as the other 2 series written by the author, which also take place kind of during the same time period, which are Ponniyin Selvan and Thivagamin Savadam, both of which I have read in the past 2 years. All these 3 are companion series, and you can read any of them in any order. I can even say that you can read the first book in all the 3 series and then the second book in all the 3 series like that also, and even in that order you will not be spoiled for any of the books. That I think is a really clever thing that has been done by the author like those many decades back. It felt very plain and simple for me compared to the scope of those other 2 series, and the characters here also felt so much flatter compared to all the other brilliant, amazing layered characters that I've seen in the other 2 series. The strongest element, if you ask me, for the series is the writing of the author and his knowledge, because it's impeccable. And I ended up rating the first and second books 4 stars each, and the last book 3.5 stars. Moving on to the audiobooks. The first audiobook which I finished reading or listening to is The Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. If you're looking for a standalone fantasy book that has a super fun magic system and it is also quite dark in its tone, then you have to go forward and read this standalone fantasy. It can be read by both young adults as well as adults because it does not have any mature themes. So basically in this book we follow our main character who's a baker, and she's living with her aunt and uncle in her bakery. She's working for her aunt in her bakery, and one day what happens is when she goes to the bakery and opens it, she finds a dead body inside there. Now the investigations go on behind who killed the person who's lying dead there, and our main character becomes one of the prime suspects. The magic system inside this book is also super fun to read because there are different kinds of people who have or don't have magic inside the world, and the people who have magic are also categorized into 2 types. One are the type of people who have serious magic that can actually help the kingdom as a whole, and the others are people with trivial kinds of magic like our main character who has the ability to just go forward and do magic with dough or baking in general. Depending upon the creativity of each and every person and the ability that they have in terms of magic, they can wield their power in so many different ways. It was really fun to read, and I think that it was a bit stretched out towards the end, and if the author had avoided that alone, I think this would have been much more fun to read and much more fast paced too. Even with that, I enjoyed reading this book and I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next 2 audiobooks are from a series, and it's a YA fantasy duology, which is The Monsters of Verity duology by B.E. Schwab. I've actually read the first book, This Savage Song, like years back, and after that I wanted to go forward and read the second book too, but for some reason I was not in the mood to read the second book back then, so I DNF'd it then. So I went forward, re-listened to the first book, and then read the second book inside the series, and I should say that it is quite a strong series. Okay, here in this series we follow a version of our own world, but there is this city called Verity, and the thing about Verity is that monsters are created inside the city based on the bad deeds that are done by human beings, and there are 3 types of monsters, namely Korsai, Malkai and Sunai, and all of them have different shapes, of which the Sunai are the most powerful and they can take the form of human beings. Of the 2 main characters whom we follow here, Kate, the female main character, is the daughter of the person who's kind of the boss of this town of Verity. And the male main character, August, is actually a powerful Sunai who keeps his identity hidden from the world. They both strike a very odd kind of friendship, and from then on, so many things start happening inside the series. It is really well thought out, and if you want to read a very action-packed urban fantasy, you can definitely go forward and try this series. The magic here is also quite interesting to read because there are different kinds of deeds which produce different kinds of monsters, and those monsters take back from humanity in very different brutal ways. I enjoyed reading both the books even though they are a bit dark for YA books, and I rated both of them 4 stars each. The next 4 audiobooks are also part of a single series, and it is also a fantasy novella series called The Singing Hills Cycle by Nghi Vo. I read the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th novellas inside the series, and there are 2 more yet to be released. I've read the first one already. I think I read it last year, I don't remember properly. and I just binged through these 4 as audiobooks because they are very short in length, and it is also a really well written series. Here we follow our main character who's kind of a monk, and their work is to just travel across the kingdom and gather stories from different parts. So in all these 4 books, we see our main character, the monk, and this bird-like creature that they have with them, traveling to different parts of the kingdom and gathering stories from the people who live there. The representation inside the series is really nice, and the writing of the author is also really fluid. Okay, it sounds beautiful and poetic, at the same time it's easy to read and understand. It's this really good balance while writing the books. I'm very eager to read the other 2 books inside the series also. A really good thing about the series is that it's a companion series, so you can read all the 5 novellas that have been published so far in any order. You need not read them sequentially, and they will not spoil any of the other books inside the series for you. I rated the 3rd book alone 4 stars and all the other 3 books 3 stars. Finally, talking about the ebooks, I managed reading a total of 8 ebooks in July, and of these 8 books also 7 are from a single non-fiction series called the Lean Productivity Books series by Maxim Dsouza. They were available for free on Kindle last year one day, and I just bought all of them together and downloaded them. So I went forward and read like 1 book per day for like 1 week or so, and I ended up finishing 7 of these inside the series. The best thing about the series is that each and every book is hardly 15 to 20 pages long, so you need not spend a lot of time reading them. And if you are also a beginner when it comes to reading non-fiction books or self-help books, the series is a really great place to start. I'll just read out the titles of the books and I'll drop the covers here. After that, I'll tell how they are to read. Number 1 is an introduction to Pomodoro technique. Number 2 is how to achieve a flow state. Number 3, how to step outside your comfort zone. Number 4, the most common mistakes committed while setting goals. Number 5, how to write a professional email. Number 6, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Number 7, how to create your personalized productivity plan. All these books are written by the same author, Maxim Dsouza, and I should say that they are super beginner friendly. Okay, if you're a person who has read a lot of non-fiction books across all of these topics which I talked about, you need not go forward and read these books because they don't have much out of the huge books that we have read already. But if you're a total beginner and if you are not interested in reading huge books to get the gist out of them, you can definitely go forward and read these 15 to 20 page long books, and I think they will be really helpful, at least to start your self-help journey. I was really satisfied with each and every one of the 7 books, and I ended up rating each and every one of them 4 stars. And the last ebook is also another self-help book, and it is Time is Not Infinite by Paulo Ruggeri. This was also available for free in Kindle, I think, and it is also a very short ebook again. I think it's just around 50 or 80 pages long, and the author basically talks about 12 principles that really highly successful CEOs and other such professionals follow in order to make the best use of their time. It was very eye-opening for me when it came to certain chapters, and certain others were just repetitive from some of the other productivity books that I've read. Again, if you're a beginner when it comes to reading productivity books in specific, this is definitely a great place to start. And since the book is also very short, as I said before, you'll be able to fly through it. At the same time, you'll get so much info out of it. So yeah, just go forward and give it a try. I rated this one also 4 stars. So yes guys, those are all the 24 books which I managed to finish reading in July. And despite it being not such a great month for me, it was a really good month in terms of reading. My August reading is also going really solid. I was not able to read as much because of certain commitments, but I did read a good deal, and I'm also reading really good books. I'm filming this midway through August, so I have like 10 to 15 more days within which I can read a lot more. Don't forget to leave your July wrap up in the comments below. Even though I'm late, I would like to know what you read in the past month. And if you've read any of the books that I've talked about in this video, do let me know your opinions on them in the comments below so that we can discuss further. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.